Welcome to Cars and Aircraft Explained. Today, we're diving into a car that wasn't just born from a vision, but from a single, uncompromising idea to build the absolute greatest driver's car the world had ever seen. You know, a car built by engineers, for drivers, with zero input from the marketing department. This is the story of the McLaren F1.
And this question, right here, it really gets to the very heart of the F1's entire philosophy. See, it was never about just adding more power, or more features, or God forbid more weight. No, this was all about subtraction. It was about stripping away everything, and I mean everything that wasn't absolutely essential to the pure experience of driving until all that was left was perfection.
So, the supercar problem. Why did the F1 even need to exist? Well, to really get just how brilliant this car is, you have to understand what was going on when it was created. We're talking the early 1990s, and the whole supercar world was, let's just say, heading in a direction that its designer, the legendary Gordon Murray, was not a fan of.
So what was wrong? Well, supercars back then were getting weird. They were heavy, way too complicated, and completely obsessed with numbers on a spec sheet, not how the car actually felt to drive. It created this numb driving experience. They were chasing bigger and bigger stats, sure, but they were also getting heavier, more complex, and that raw, unfiltered connection between the driver, the car, and the road, it was just getting buried under all that weight and tech.
In Gordon Murray's response to all this, it was a simple, but honestly pretty radical question. He just asked, what if we build the lightest, purest, most driver-focused car possible? See, this wasn't about chasing some top speed record or bragging about horsepower. This was about creating the ultimate driving tool, something that felt like a true extension of the driver.
And at the core of that vision, the naturally aspirated heart, the BMW S70/2 V12. I mean, to get that level of purity, the F1 needed a very, very special engine. Gordon Murray was absolutely dead set on it being naturally aspirated. Why? Because turbochargers, they introduced lag, they kind of dulled the throttle response. He wanted instant power. And that search for the perfect engine, well, it led McLaren to BMW Motorsport, and that collaboration created something truly legendary.
So here are the specs. What they ended up with was a 6.1-liter naturally aspirated V12 that put out a staggering 627 horsepower and 650 newton-meters of torque. Now, you got to remember, this was a time when 400 horsepower was considered completely extreme. So this was just on another level. But honestly, the numbers don't even tell the whole story. The real magic was in how it delivered that power. It was instant, it was smooth, and it was perfectly, beautifully responsive to every single thing the driver did.
Which brings us to the next point, an obsession with lightness. This was the engineer's approach to performance, because look, all that power would have been totally meaningless without an absolute, fanatical dedication to lightness. This wasn't just a principle of the F1 project, it was the core principle. It was a complete obsession with shaving off every single possible gram, all in the name of creating that pure driving experience.
And when I say obsession, I mean it. The F1 was the first ever road car to use a full carbon fiber monocoque chassis. That's basically a single super rigid tub that makes up the core of the car. Tech pulled straight from Formula One. But they didn't stop there. They used magnesium for things like the wheels, titanium for the bolts, and get this, the engine bay was lined with actual gold foil. And no, that wasn't for bling. It was because gold is literally the best material for reflecting heat. I mean, the obsession went so deep that even the stereo was a custom Kenwood unit designed specifically to be the lightest one in the world.
So, after all that obsessive weight saving, what was the result? A curb weight of just 1,138 kilograms. Let that sink in for a second. To put that into perspective for you, a modern Ford Fiesta, a small hatchback, weighs more than this car. A V12 hypercar that weighs less than a Fiesta. That incredible lightness right there is the secret sauce behind the F1's legendary agility and handling.
And that brings us to the ultimate driver connection, and maybe the F1's most iconic feature, the central driving position. You see, this whole philosophy of purity, it didn't just stop with the materials. It went right into the very heart of the car, where the driver sits. The F1's interior is, without a doubt, one of the most iconic and purely driver-focused cockpits ever designed.
So what you have is this incredible 1+2 seating layout, which places the driver right in the absolute center of the car. It's an idea taken straight from single-seater race cars, and the benefits are huge. Your visibility is perfect, the weight balance is symmetrical, and you get this sense of connection and control that you can't get in a normal car. In the F1, you aren't just driving the car, you are the center of the car.
Now, here's the thing that really separates the F1 from, well, just about everything that came after it. You have this incredible analog purity versus raw performance. I'm talking no electronic aids at all. No traction control, no stability control. On the early cars, there wasn't even ABS. It was just you, a manual gearbox, and that screaming V12. And yet, with all of that raw connection, this car could do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.2 seconds, and its top speed was 386 kilometers per hour. That made it the fastest production car in the world for more than a decade.
But the story doesn't end there. As if building the ultimate road car wasn't enough, a whole new challenge came up. One that would test the F1's purity on the biggest stage in the world. And then it went racing.
Which brings us to its unmatched legacy, the 1995 Le Mans victory. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is the ultimate test of a car's endurance. It's this grueling, day-long battle of speed and reliability. And it's usually dominated by these purpose-built racing prototypes, cars designed for one thing and one thing only, winning Le Mans. The F1, well, it was never ever meant to race there. But in 1995, that's exactly what it did.
Then what happened next? Well, it absolutely stunned the entire motorsport world. On its very first attempt, the McLaren F1 won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And not just its class, it won the whole thing, overall. A road car, with just a few changes, had beaten a whole field of specialized, purpose-built race cars. It was the ultimate proof of Gordon Murray's design philosophy, that lightness, efficiency, and purity. That was the winning formula, not just on the road, but on the track too.
So, when you step back and look at it, why is the F1 still considered so unmatched? Well, it's simple, really. It prioritized driving feel over getting bogged down in technology. It used pure engineering discipline instead of just throwing more and more excess at the problem. I mean, the car is still seriously fast, even by today's standards. And, of course, it won Le Mans on its first try, a feat that will probably never, ever be repeated. It basically inspired every single modern hypercar that came after it.
There's a quote that I think sums it up perfectly. The McLaren F1 was never meant to be flashy. It was meant to be perfect. And that's really it, isn't it? It wasn't about being loud or showing off. It was this quiet, confident, relentless pursuit of perfection. A true monument to what pure, uncompromising engineering can achieve.
And all of this, it leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? In our digital age, with hybrid engines, complex electronics, and safety regulations everywhere, could a car like the F1 ever really be built again? A car with that same singular focus, that same defiant analog spirit? Or was it just a product of a very specific moment in time? A perfect storm of talent and timing and philosophy that we're just never going to see again?